All right, Simon, so you've set up Proform. You've still got a nice few quid with your redundancy money sat in the bank. You're doing all right. Were you profiting from your ratings and Proform yourself as a punter?
Right, so I'd have to say overall, no. I was betting, but I was betting more as a recreational punter. Having some wins, having some losses, probably overall losing a little bit. The main reason for me for that really was I was concentrating on, especially in an afternoon, because you're working on doing declarations for the next day, it's always in an afternoon. And at that time, when I was creating the data, it was taking a long time. It was sort of, I wouldn't say it was a full-time job even then, but it was still 5 hours in an afternoon creating data for the next day. And that's when racing's on. So you haven't got time to sit down and concentrate on trying to find bets. So I just didn't try to do that. And to be honest, what I did most of it, I lived right next to the golf course. So I just played golf in the morning. I used to play golf in the morning, have a little kip, do 5 hours work in the afternoon, make the tea for when Deborah, because she was working full time, make the tea for when Deborah goes home. And then I just do that every day. I mean, some weeks I played 9 times golf. I used to play on a night as well. So I just played a lot of golf, did the declarations, improved the software, and just tried to build up subscriptions. So I didn't really bet that much, I wouldn't say, for the first 10 years of Proform's life.
You say you're a recreational punter. Would you say that your customers, they can all be professional punters, but does it suit recreational punters, Proform, or is it too complicated for a novice?
I think the software is complicated because it's a full database, and if you're not particularly computer savvy, it's quite a big learning curve. There's a lot in there. It's evolved so much that there's a lot of different aspects to it. So what I introduced more recently in the last 5 or 6 years was the online race guides and the bet finder, which is like a bet, lay and trade finder, and them two are more for recreational punters or people who don't have a lot of time, because all of the good statistics are still in them, but it just allows you to get to it quicker. So I would say the people subscribing to the full packages and using the software, the majority of them are, I would say, on a slightly different level to recreational punters. And there's a lot of other people subscribe, like journalists and stuff. There's a lot of tipsters subscribe. So tipsters use it to help find systems, and then they'll have tipping services. And that's fine. I'm a data provider, so that's what it's for. It's for people to use it in whatever way they see fit.
You talk about systems, and a friend of mine I know is very keen on finding new systems on using using Proform. How long do you think the lifespan of a system is? Because I assume that after a while they don't work anymore.
Yeah, a lot of it depends how many people are using it. So we have like a little group, a WhatsApp group as part of the membership, and not all of the members in it, because some people don't want to chat about things. Some people want to keep things close to the chest, but the ones that do, we sort of share systems, and I review them every year. So we might be like 60 or 70 systems that we share, and when you review them at the end of the year, you can see when they're starting to tail off. And it does depend on what the system is. If it's a trainer-based system or something like that, or a jockey-based system, then there's certain cycles that is going to happen with trainers as they sort of come to the end of their careers, or they don't get as many good horses one year, or they move into different spheres. So they can be very fluid. Rating systems are a little bit more consistent until there's a lot of people backing them, and then I imagine somehow the bookmakers have got hold of them, and then they may be altering the prices slightly based on if a lot of people are backing them. So you've just got to keep evolving and keep looking at them and checking them and seeing if there's a pattern to why they've failed.
So would your top-rated horses move the market?
Well, you'd like to think so. I'd like to think they were, but I'm not sure. I don't know. I'm not sure. It's difficult to tell, because a lot of the top-rated horses are going to be somewhere near the front of the market anyway. More steam than drift, that's for sure, because we can check that in the software. But again, I just think a lot of it's to do with eventually everybody will find them types of horses in one way or another, not necessarily because it's from my ratings, just because they have got a better chance. I think my ratings are predicting that they've got a better chance. than the market says they should have. But I think eventually everybody finds that, so the prices just naturally move. So I'm not sure I'm moving the market. I don't think I've got enough members to move the market.
So can a punter, there's a lot of lazy punters out there, myself included, can a punter make a living just backing the top rated horses?
Yeah, if you can keep the accounts. So me and a friend of mine back the top rated, and we do it just to show members that it can be done. And we do £10 on every horse in every race in the UK and Ireland the night before, using a bookmaker that's offering bog. If it becomes a non-runner, we don't replace it, because in theory second rated would be then the top rated, but we don't do that. We're just lazy punters. Takes 20 minutes on a night, we put all the bets on, and if you can keep the accounts, and at that level it's fairly straightforward to keep them for quite a long time, then you can make somewhere between, I think we've made about 450 points in 14 months, something like that. So and the beginning of the previous year was really tricky with the ground, and we lost a bit. So I think you can, but you've got to keep the accounts. So you've got to try and churn the accounts. But you can also still do it in the morning, at breakfast prices, or which is, I'd say that's 7:30 in the morning, or at morning prices at 10:30. But it's just, you'll make less profit because the prices of non-runners have come out and the prices have moved a bit. But you can still do it. You can definitely do it if you can keep the accounts.
Okay, well, people watching this are going to be screaming, hang on a minute, if you're showing any sort of profit, you can't keep an account. So how do you get around that?
Right, so we've managed to keep an account that's won £3,000 or £4,000 with one bookmaker for 14 months by just betting a small amount. And I think part of it's because, and it's not the same for everybody, because you see different stories with my members that you can have 2 or 3 bets. I mean, I remember having 2 or 3 bets with a bookmaker, and they all lost and they closed the account. So you've hit some sort of trap or you've backed something that's moved. So sometimes you can just lose them really quickly. I don't really want to go in exactly what we do when you lose accounts. We do chat about that with members and stuff. But if you can get more accounts in somebody else's name, there is ways of making sure that they won't find out that it's you doing the betting. It's fairly simple, but we don't want to tell all the bookmakers how to do it.
So what you've just described, is that basically the level of your betting these days, or do you get more involved?
I get a little bit more involved in the winter, where I bet with someone else, and that's at a little bit of an higher level, and I have to manage my accounts really well to do that. But from a personal betting point of view, I do the betting with my friend that we do at the night before to show that you can bet on the top rated, and then I have a friend and a colleague who works with me, and we do some betting on some slightly less selections. They're all generally based on ratings, and we do them the night before. And again, it's because we supply them to members who subscribe. We give them the selections the night before from them systems. So they don't even have to actually download the software. We just give them the bets, and we put them on as well to show that you can make a profit. And we just got to manage the accounts. We've got 5 or 6 bookmakers accounts, and with different bookmakers, and we just do that to show members that you can make a profit to small stakes, enough to cover subscriptions and make a little bit more, and then you can use the software to find your own angles.
So do you provide information to the enemy if a bookmaker wanted to subscribe? Would you sell him the subscription?
If he came direct, I wouldn't sell him the subscription. I know of one person who works for a bookmaker that's subscribing. I think there's probably bookmakers subscribing, but because you can create Gmail accounts and Hotmail email address accounts, you wouldn't know. They're not going to use their own name to subscribe. So I imagine they are bookmakers subscribing from trading rooms. If they came direct, I'd probably say no, but I don't think there's anything you can do about it.
Now, people might be surprised that you're sort of the industry leader with the sort of service you provide, Proform, but you're pretty much a one-man band. Is it all you still doing the work at the moment?
No, there's 2 of us now, but it has been all me. Well, I did have somebody a few years ago as well, for a couple of years. I think it was 3 years. But up to that point, the first 15 years, it was just me doing everything. And I've now got another chap who I know really well because we play golf together and stuff. It's the same golf club. and he's been into racing all of his life, and he's IT as well. So I think it's a really good marry to get the work done. If you know horse racing and you're computer savvy, it really helps me in my business. And he's come on board. He's been working for me just over a year now, and he's doing really good. And he's taken over the afternoon work. So I do the morning work. I do all the results, and I create the speed figures, and I create the pace ratings. And then in the afternoon, he does all the production for the 24-hour decks and the 40-hour decks. And we've got it pretty much nailed. We've tidied it up. It's a lot quicker now. We get the data in from the official suppliers, so it's mainly okay. We have to do a bit of checking on it. There's sometimes a few issues. But we've got it narrowed down to I do about an hour and a half in the morning, and then Robert does somewhere between 2 and 4 hours in an afternoon, depending whether it's in the flat or the winter or the summer, depending on how many meetings they are. So we've got it pretty much nailed down. Yeah, it's 2 people's enough.
Well, we're sat here now, your twin 5-year-olds are at school.
Yeah.
But when they came along, that must have knocked it bandy a bit for a while.
Yeah, it did, especially working at home. I think if I'd have had an office to go to somewhere, then, I could have been out of the door at 7, back at 7, and it'd have been great. But Deborah needed so much help. When we're a bit older parents than most, and you just don't have as much energy. So it was very difficult to start with, especially the first 2 years. I used to trade the NFL a bit, and I remember having a screaming baby in my hand while I'm trying to trade an NFL match, and I lost quite a lot of money on it because there's one screaming baby here and Deborah's got another one over here, and it was like, right, that's it, let's just stop trying to trade, because I used to do a bit of trading and stuff. So I would say the first 2 years was very difficult working at home. Didn't get much programming done.